Just call this meeting as spur of the moment for concerned people in the community in relation to a development that's happening across the way. Dynarod's site over there and the site in front of it, which involves the creche and the units coming out onto Cambridge Road, they put up a notice for 7 stories. It's on less than 0.1 hectare, which is 1,000 square metres. And they put planning permission in for it, and they asked for an exemption clause that would see not having to build a 10% social and affordable housing. And somehow, somewhere, nobody knew anything about this.
I am gobsmacked that not one single person knew about the planning application for the 7 stories.
Where was it?
We can't appeal it,
Where was it?
but there's definitely something has exactly. Whereas within 1 hour of this notice going up, the whole community knew about it.
They have the 7 with the exemption, and now they put in to amend that to make it 15, and they've applied for the same Section 97 that will see them have an exemption of any social housing on the 15 floors.
That is not a suitable site for the schools up outside, the residents. They can look down in the residents' yards. So you're going to have to stop it. Forget about your legal end. Physically stand and stop it.
Dublin City Council refused Johnny Ronan 6 months ago when he wanted to go up to 11 and 13, okay? So there is precedent for refusing height.
Apart from all the offices coming in and parking everywhere, you know, half the time you can't go out in the day because then you've nowhere to leave your car then. So they shouldn't be able to build these without underground parking.
Thorncastle Street, average height is 4 stories. Cambridge Road, semi-detached. Pembroke Cottages, Artisan Cottages. York Road, average building height is 4 stories. So to propose a 15-storey is out of character, and it directly contravenes the building height guidelines.
If this is allowed go ahead, it will effectively drive a coach and horses through any community engagement, any development like the STZ, like the Docklands, or any future community engagement. It more or less throws that aside and just says, listen, we're going to build what we want, where we want, and when we want it.
This would scare, as a resident here, this would scare the life out of me, that plots of lands can be divided up to make sure it's just less than the 1,000 square metres, and that an exemption can be applied for no social housing.
We do need to look at closing the loopholes on social housing provision. It should never have been reduced from 20% to 10%, and there's too many loopholes that are letting them A, get away with not building them at all, or B, building them off-site, and that's something that we need to look at really urgently. But I happily make an objection to this. I think it's ludicrous that, and will set a precedent, and I'm for height in the right locations, but there are other areas in the city that it's just not acceptable, and this particular street, I think it's outrageous.
And we would have to also try and engage meaningfully with Dublin City Council, some representatives, and get them to engage with us so that we can express our concerns well in advance of the 20th of August.
So the best way to stop this now is to just submit a massive volume of observations when the window opens to stop this, to make sure everyone in the area that is concerned about this voices their concerns.
And just say what they are. I think the planners are more influenced by real objections. You know, I'm living beside this and this will tower over my house. I'm living beside there and I can't get parking. My kids go to school next door and we don't want people towering over the school. You know, real, honest to goodness objections.
Will you, on behalf of your party, support that?
I'm a very small fish within my party, but I will, yeah.
Thank you.
On behalf of the people, yeah.
Building height guidelines have very prescribed development specifics, and 15 stories is out of character and contravenes those guidelines. So I'm going to send around those guidelines to the group. That's where we get them.
We'll come back here next week. Whatever observations we have, just keep it up until the 20th of August.